Design.
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 Design means to plan.
Human.
Substance.
Technology.
Designing for a better future.
What is design really?
Let's talk about design.
Making an impact in the world.
The power of design to improve life.
Design to survive.
For many of us, birth control is easy to access. We go to the doctors, discuss our options, and are usually sent home with a quick solution. But for millions of women around the world, contraceptive access is rare, non-existent, or even a punishable taboo to discuss.
Women start lining up very early in the morning.
Es imposible encontrar.
It's just impossible to find contraceptives elsewhere, this woman says.
According to the United Nations, 1.1 billion women still lack access to family planning, giving them little to no control over their reproductive health. Not only does this lead to unwanted pregnancies and abortions, many illegal and even deadly, but is an erosion of women's rights and a toxic threat to our social progress.
Mothering is wonderful, but women have brains too and can do many other things in life. And so to me, access to birth control is the most basic thing that a woman has to have in order to be able to have agency over the rest of her life.
Birth control can be dated back to as early as 1550 BC, where women of ancient Egypt placed honey, acacia leaves, and lint into the vagina to block sperm. Fast forward to modern society, where the most commonly used non-permanent female birth control options are hormonal pills and intrauterine devices, also known as IUDs. But as many women know, these contraceptives don't come without their side effects. One tiny pill to pop per day with the risk of migraines, nausea, and a heightened risk of depression, or an IUD painfully inserted into the vagina with a risk of cramping, bleeding, and even infection.
And the way that the birth control pill works is it changes women's levels of sex hormones. And even though we tend to think of our sex hormones as something that happens to us, right, like something that causes puberty and hair growth in places that we don't really want to talk about in polite company, our sex hormones are actually a key part of the signaling machinery that our brain uses to create the experience of being the person that we are. And so when we change women's sex hormones, we're actually changing the version of their brain that they are creating.
Currently, more than 922 million women worldwide use contraceptives. Yet the area has seen limited innovation, perhaps because it only affects 1/2 of the population, or that women's reproductive rights can change for the worse, even in the most seemingly progressive nations, with the swift signing of a bill. While some argue birth control shouldn't solely rest on the shoulders of women, we deserve better choices for our bodies. Are we bound to compromise our physical and mental well-being for effective family planning? Or can we design a solution that's safe, effective, and virtually symptom-free? Welcome to Can Design Save Us, a series exploring design as a pioneering force for good. We dive into the most pressing problems of our time and meet people using design to solve them. We explore the good, bad, complex, and controversial. My name is Lesley Price, host from the Index Project, and my guest today is Marie Lyhne, design manager at Cirqle Biomedical, behind revolutionary contraceptive EmpowHER. EmpowHER, as an Index Award 2021 winner, is a small gel capsule that works as a hormone-free female contraceptive. Welcome to the program, Marie. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I should just ask, we were discussing the pronunciation of the product. Some of us think it's EmpowHER, like French, and then some of us have some alternative pronunciations. So we'd like to hear what...
So the company is founded by half French guy. So
okay.
So it is EmpowHER.
Okay, perfect.
And it's also EmpowHER because we want to say yes to a new good contraceptive.
So EmpowHER is a hormone-free contraceptive. We'll mention this in the introduction of the episode. But as the design manager, how did you come to be acquainted with the product or join the company?
Yeah, so I just started my own company after I had been in a company for 5 years. I wanted to not like get involved in one company. And then I was working as a design consultant and for Bioinnovation Institute. And they asked me if I wanted to help this new groundbreaking technology with a little bit of design. And I thought, okay, I'll do it. Short, brief. And I was pregnant at that time. So that's a prototype in the company.
Yep.
And then I got involved. And when I heard about it, that it was a hormone-free, it was a mucus-based product that was just making this invisible shield in the vagina, I thought, okay, this is just what I need. I need to learn a little bit more about it. And then from that period of time, I was hooked.
So, I mean, was it Frederick that approached you, the founder, or how did it go about?
It was actually through Bioinnovation Institute. They approached me because I had been working with human-centered design approach and to get that early in the process as a new way of developing medical devices, taking the users into account. Mm-hmm. And then through that Innovation Institute, I got involved with a incubator program where this company Cirqle were a part of. So it was an incubator program. Mm-hmm. And then they contacted me and I did a brief and a task for them. And it was so interesting. So they asked me if I wanted to stay.
Yeah, very interesting. But you also mentioned that you were working on previously you were working on a project that was about, I guess, stopping hemorrhages, right, mm-hmm. In the body. If you could tell us a bit more about that, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. So more than 5 years ago, I my first really design job was with this new startup that were also open to integrate human-centered design as a part of the core. Mm-hmm. And this was a new product that wanted to prevent hypothermia and stop hemorrhages. So it was a blood warmer that you use when you have to warm blood during blood transfusion. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have a blood warmer, so it seems a little like a paradox that you bleed and you don't want to get cold, but you get cold blood. Yeah. So in order to prevent that, we developed a new blood warmer. And I took that from like the very early concept development and all the way to the market. And it's now like in all the helicopters in the north, in Sweden, in Denmark, and in Norway.
That's pretty cool. I mean, do you feel like it was a natural progression for you, sort of going from, I know we isn't necessarily a medical product, but going, basically from one medical product to the other? Just a very different application. Yeah,
I feel that it's always been my drive to develop life-changing and life-saving products together with the users and combining that with new technology. So it was a very natural next step that I would like to have impact where it wasn't so much actually about life or death, but it was more about pleasure and how can you create a new contraceptive where it's not like minutes that matters in terms of life, but it's actually minutes in terms of protection and then enhancing this new pleasurable feeling that it is to have intercourse.
Yeah, I thought it was quite an interesting, this is sort of a side note, that these guys were just featured in CNN. And one of the questions often was, does it increase pleasure as well? And I think, it increases lubrication, right?
Yeah, it has a subtle lubricating effect. So we found out that that's not a side effect. It's actually turned out to be beneficial.
A benefit, yeah.
Because as I talk to a lot of users and they always say, like, how can lube, you can never get too much lube, which I don't know if I agree with, but a lot of users do.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that'll be interesting. But I guess we should talk about how it actually works. So what I thought was pretty interesting is that, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that you insert it and it is active after a minute after insertion. Mm-hmm. And that it basically, does it mimic sort of the natural barrier that you have when you're not ovulating, basically?
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So in short, it's just a completely new approach to contraception where we reinforce the natural mucus, which is the gel you have inside you. And we just kind of revert this mucus to its natural state when you're not ovulating. Okay, so during ovulation, the mucus becomes more watery, and that's actually when the sperm cells can penetrate and fertilize the egg. So what we're doing is we're just reverting this to its natural state by reinforcing the natural mucus-based barrier. We're using small biopolymers derived from chitosan, and they can be made out of seashells or mushrooms.
So fully natural, yep.
Fully natural. And that's also very important for us, that that's a natural process. So we're just taking basically what we already have inside us and making that again when it becomes watery.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating that no one has thought to do this before. I mean, and the design itself is incredibly beautiful that we've talked about, that it looks like a little contact lens almost. And even the packaging you've created, at least in the renderings, that it looks like, little contact lenses that you can sort of pop them out and use them as you need. But how was the design process? I mean, I can imagine you've got some pretty interesting stories from talking to, I guess, women all over the world.
Yeah, so the design process has been very exciting because in this company, and that's also why I was so intrigued, is they actually really care about that it's a purely needed product. So it's based on user needs. So there is this need for a new contraceptive that doesn't contain any hormones. And in this research, we've talked to more than 2,000 women. So done a lot of internationally. Research.
That's a lot of Zoom calls.
It's a lot of Zoom calls and also surveys so that we have some backup quantitative data. And what they told me was that wouldn't it be nice if instead of an applicator, you could just use your finger as an applicator? So in that way, we can really make it small. And why do we want to make it so small? We want to make it so small so that we can enhance this feeling of a product that you can just put in whenever and wherever. So we call it this invisible, flexible product that you can apply either in bed just next to your partner, or if you're a little more shy, or if it's the first time you meet a guy, you can do it in the bathroom or slip it in the restaurant if you know that it's going that way. So we really try to see like how can we make this product so that it fits every woman and that it shouldn't just be for one kind of person, but if we make a product that is so small, then it's up to you how you use it and how you adapt it into your lifestyle.
I'm actually quite surprised about the applicator thing, but maybe I'm just so out of touch these days. I just remember like tampons originally came with the applicator. I don't know. Do people still use the applicators? I guess some women, but I think it's interesting that a lot of them said that they didn't need it, I guess, or that it was... they just wanted to put it in with the finger. I think
we've
that's
also
very
seen a huge shift from using plastic applicators to cardboard applicators, and then this organic cup or a menstrual cup, where we see a big market, and that is just in line with our idea of we're becoming more familiar with ourselves. We're talking more about ourselves, our well-being. So that was just. That was us thinking, okay, how small can we make it? Because we knew that was a desire.
How big is it actually? I can see from the pictures, but is that sort of the intended size?
That's the intended size.
Okay, so that is like a 1.5 centimeters? Yeah.
We're targeting between 4 to 5 milliliters.
Okay.
So that's encapsulated in this little capsule. So it's not a lot.
So for listeners, what size would that be? Maybe like the size of a jelly bean. I don't know.
A big jelly bean.
A big jelly bean. All right, that's good.
But a soft jelly bean.
Yes, okay, good.
And a lubricating.
I don't know if that was the best explanation, but that's just the first thing that came to mind. Candy.
It is like a candy for the vagina.
That's a good way to put it. Why, I guess, is this very important? I guess a lot of women know that we have a lot of side effects. Even from my own experience, going on the pill altered my mood like crazy. So that was one sort of major problematic. But I mean, for people who don't, I guess men or people who don't understand, why is hormone-free contraceptives and something that's comfortable, really needed?
We see when we talk to women, we see that a lot of people aren't sure what it's really doing to you. And the thing about hormones is it's very individual. Like it can impact you different than how it impacts me. I had problems with hormone contraceptives before, so that was also why I was so engaged into this. So we see that women don't want to put anything inside them that's more like permanent effect and not reversible. So with hormones, even after you stop, you don't really know like how long time is it going to be in your body. And it's the same with the implants, or that's a physical object. So what we're doing is just we're creating this natural barrier that is reversible. Like once you take it out, it's just washed away with natural fluids.
Yeah, I think it's also pretty scary when, at least when I was growing up, 14, 15, that so many girls were just being put on the pill for multiple reasons, whether they had an irregular period or or skin problems as well, that you were often just put on the pill. I'm not sure how it was here in Denmark as well. But then not knowing the sort of long-term side effects. Also that you potentially have to go off it if you want to have a child for quite some time. I'm not sure how accurate that is. This is more just anecdotal that I've heard.
Yeah, and we also, like in the company, it's not that we think that hormonal birth control are bad, because it really disrupted the world 60 years ago. It was a great product. It was enabling women to suddenly get educated. It was, it was giving them this freedom that they didn't before, because they were getting pregnant and giving birth all the time. So now it was up for the women to choose how they wanted to live their life. But we think that the time has come to make something new, where we also take the desires, the needs into consideration, so that it's not only about not becoming pregnant, but it's also about what do you put into your body, and how do you make an on-demand product that is just reversible. So it's adding to this whole user experience that's very important for us.
I mean, also, it seems like one of the other major, at least I looked up the stats, that one of the other major birth control options is the IUD, if people don't want to go through the hormonal option. I've heard it's very painful, though, to get one put in, and that it's not for everyone, I guess. So that's also great that this is a very, I assume, quite painless procedure that you just put it in.
Yeah, there's no pain with it. You have to apply it vaginally, but that's basically it. And it's not something that stays inside you for 2 or 3 years. It's just for the hours that when you apply it, it will maybe be washed away within a day. So it's just it's this mucus that is rinsed away with other fluids from the guys, or when you go to the toilet.
But I also like that you don't have to remove anything. You put it up there and it is active for 5 hours, right?
Yeah, we're targeting 5 hours. And we're also targeting that, like, once you put it in, it should work very shortly after 1-2 minutes. And that was also something that's an example of how we work in the company. We had, when I did the initial research, we thought that it should last for days, but we actually found out that it wasn't the need. The need was more that it worked fast, and that that the women were protected during the time that they had sex.
Yeah.
So then we went back to the lab and say, how can we make this product work faster? And then we want to target as long as possible, but at the moment we see it's possible for 5 hours.
So I can imagine it's very much then based on the chemical reactions, basically. Is that what they had to do in the lab to try and figure out, okay, how can it reach this consistency within this time period, and then how can it sort of break down? But that's really fascinating. I mean, when you were sort of onboarded onto the company, I think it's very interesting that you guys were founded by essentially 2 men. Although it is an interesting story that Frederick, from what I've read, that he sort of came up with this idea after speaking with his girlfriend and then sort of learning, okay, hormonal options aren't always great for women. I mean, did that, what were your thoughts on that? Did you have any concerns, or did you find it more interesting? I just think it's quite funny. For me, it was just showing this huge paradigm shift that all of a sudden it's 2 guys founding a company working with contraceptives for women. I thought it was awesome that there was this need now, that it was not only good enough for the women now. The men were also starting to questioning,
what is it with the hormonal birth control pills or other implants that works as contraceptives, and then taking that to the next stage, they met each other because Frederick traveled all the way to Stockholm, where there was this nerd and big scientist, and it was he had been working with mucus engineering. I didn't even know that was a term before, but mucus engineering for a decade.
It's not the sexiest term, or is it? Yeah, I don't know.
So we're just trying to make it more sexy and to really make mucus engineering into something that is a desirable product for the women, because
definitely.
we have potentially hundreds of millions of users in this product.
I mean, how many women are you in the company? At least from the pictures, it seems, or from the team composition, that there's quite a lot of you.
Yeah, so it seems like it attracts women to work with contraceptives, and that's also just showing that it's not only a need for the guys, but it's also for the women, since essentially we're going to be the one that will have it inside us. So we are currently 7 people working in the company, and we have mostly women, I would say. It's just Thomas and Frederick, the founders, that are the guys currently.
Okay, they're missing out on some of the inside jokes, and I imagine, and inside references.
Well, I do challenge them sometimes because I want them to also think like a woman. So we do all these design tasks in the company, and they're put in the women's shoes. What is good about it is that they do have, like, Frederick has a girlfriend, and so does Thomas, and he even has 3 kids.
Yeah.
So it's also a need for them. It's also a product that they use. So they're co-users of the product.
That's a good way to put it, co-users. What kind of design challenges, if I can just ask, now I'm curious to know what kind of exercises they might be put through.
Well, I did at one point because when we were working with how you should apply it, how could you use the finger, and I asked them to imagine that they had to apply it vaginally. So we bought this little strap-on and it was just good, there was a lot of laughs, but it's just it's to really feel that we want to understand the users, and it's also good because even though they're not women, they're guys, and the guy is a part of the experience. So we're also looking into ways if it should be a product where you can apply it together with your partner, which is going back to this invisible flexibility that we talk about all the time.
But I mean, now I'm intrigued the moment you said strap on. I mean, are we talking about that they had to practice to put it, to apply it?
So it's just how to apply it, because it should work if you put it on your finger. You have to also understand how it's actually put inside you.
But that's the thing, knowing how far up it has to go, etc. These are things that, people might, I'm sure a lot of people don't know. Yeah.
And that's a design challenge that we're also working on. How it is now is this mucus will form a barrier so that you shouldn't worry about how far up it should go. It's not like you should not hurt yourself when you apply it.
True, well, it's even like applying a tampon, or even, as you mentioned before, a ruby cup or something like that, knowing how to apply it correctly. I think, at least in those early years, trying to figure that out can be a bit of a challenge, but that's very
and the
behavioral,
the behavior from the women, they know it because they have applied tampons, menstrual cups before, so they know pretty much how it is, or if you have a vaginal affection. So they are familiar with themselves, and we're kind of just tapping into what they already know and then just making it look better, feel better, be better.
I think it's also quite interesting that you guys sort of want to fight about this, challenge this taboo about contraceptives not being sexy. Because I think, as we've talked about, that sometimes, you'll turn off the light or something like that because it's something that is not, I wouldn't say shameful, but it's something that you've always sort of wanted to do privately. So I think it's interesting that you guys are taking that approach, that you could even involve your partner.
Exactly. And it has been a huge challenge, and we weren't sure how it would be received when we did all this research and talk and workshops with users. But we have been amazed with how openly they talk about it, how much has happened during the last decades. even at dinner parties, it's okay to talk about contraception or sex. It's like, pass me the potatoes, or what contraceptives are we using? So it's really changing how we feel about it, and making it into something that can be normalized is a big journey towards making a new desirable contraceptive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as I said, it's a beautiful product, and it is, I would say quite a sexy product. So in that sense, I can imagine it's not intimidating, or at least I can imagine that men wouldn't feel uncomfortable looking at these little, contact lens things. But you guys you've done trials in animals. Was that last year?
That's something we do all the time.
Okay, so it's constant,
we have a good collaboration. It's large animals, and unfortunately, I cannot tell you which animals because due to confidentiality. Yep. But we do have French animals, we do have English animals, and we found out that they also produce mucus just like humans. So we have a lot of similarities in the reproductive systems, and we have been able to test it with 100% efficacy rate, which is amazing, and it hasn't been shown before. And that was also a design driver for a lot of the users that we talked to, was that it seems like a banality, but the fact that it should work is the core value also in our company, because we don't just want to do 80% because then some people get pregnant.
Right? Yeah.
We want to create a trustworthy product that is also feeling safe and feeling efficient.
But you don't have to disclose the kinds of animals, but I can imagine it was quite a challenge to sort of figure out, okay, who has the most compatible reproductive system compared to a human. But
exactly, But fortunately, we have a great team of researchers doing just that, and then we have good collabs all over the world with the animal farms, and we've also been able to show that it's reversible, so that we have, after the trials, we've tried to put them back out on the grass and then take them back into the lab and then try to see if we could have the same effect, and it worked. So that was also just showing that it wasn't a permanent a product. Of course, we also have to say that we also had blind trials, so we had also test control groups with animals. So the people, the animals, not the people, because we haven't tried it on people yet. But
not yet, yeah.
But the animals that then didn't get our mucus, they got pregnant, just like an average rate.
Yeah. But that's, have you guys been able to go out and see some of these lab tests? Or I guess in the pandemic, it's been relatively difficult.
We do have some advantages. Like Corona has really stopped a lot of my work from traveling all over the world. But in the lab, we have been able to travel to places in the world to do the test. So we didn't stop entirely. We also have a laboratory in Copenhagen, based in Copenhagen. So we're making the technology there, and then we're taking it out to the animals.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting process. I mean, I think how do you? Maybe you don't know this. I'm just thinking, sort of approaching these. Are they special facilities that they have animals for? Okay, these exact purposes.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it is like almost a farm, they have a great life, and then it's like human beings. They want also to reproduce themselves, and then now we just do it in a little more. It's a little set up instead of just
fashion,
out on the field, but because we have to control the data.
But I mean, when sort of you've designed this product, or sort of you've been with the company since the beginning, I mean, what do you find, more in a generalized sense, do you think is often sort of overlooked when people are designing products for women or reproductive health?
I think before it's more been technology driven, what was feasible in the lab, what was technological feasible, and then they said, okay, now you have to use this. This is what we've developed in the lab. Whereas we take a completely different approach. We find out what are the needs, what are the desires, and what is it that we really, really have to take into consideration. And then we have a beautiful synergy with the research and the design thinking in the company. So it goes back and forth. And then, of course, we have to combine it with the feasibility. So some desires, we can't make like an invisible product. It is a capsule that you have to apply vaginally. So, but besides from that...
Has that been a wish, an invisible product? I mean, it's pretty close, I have to admit.
It is pretty close, yeah. Of course, it's a desire to just not think about contraceptive, and this is the closest we get to that.
Mm-hmm. But it is interesting that you guys say that design is effectively embedded from the very beginning. That, as you said, that often people focus on the tech part, and then it's like, well, if it works, then it's fine. It works. It does the job.
Yeah,
but
and then we just
experience...
adapt. Like the women just adapt to that. What is just like the pill that was just okay. You have to take it every day, and then we adapt it. And that was also giving great freedom, but now we just take the freedom and apply it when we want. So making it an on-demand possibility.
I thought it was really interesting, though, when we talked about also that you talked to 2,000 women, that I can imagine the expectations or sort of wishes were very different. Did you have any sort of anecdotes that you can share in a roundabout way that you thought were quite interesting? Even from country to country, I can imagine people's preferences can vary greatly.
I must say I was so surprised with how open the American market was, because my assumption was that they were more behind the outgoing Danish stereotype.
It is, being an Australian, I think everyone looks at Scandinavia and is just like, they're very progressive, you would have heard the jokes about Scandinavians being comfortable with nudity and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys hear that, but that's quite funny.
And I've talked to women that said, I would never, even if I've been in a relationship for 10 years, I would never do it in front of my boyfriend. I want to keep it to myself. Whereas others said, I want this to be like a part of the foreplay, and I could just see him applying this as a sexy product. So, which was also like, I don't know if we're ready. But then the solution to like all these different insights was that we then just tried to make a product that you could apply whenever and wherever you wanted it. Mm-hmm. So we could meet, the outgoing, not afraid of myself kind of person, and then also the shy, more private person.
Yeah, the discreet type. Yeah, we're also talking about even the packaging. That I brought it up last time, that I think it's quite interesting. Even packaging for period products, that it's still so loud and out there. And I remember being a teenager, being super embarrassed, trying to be discreet. But they're often still packaged as these neon green and neon pink sort of items, which I think is quite odd. That nothing has been done about that. A product like I think is really interesting in that sense, that you guys have thought about something much more discreet, which I'm surprised is not I guess penetrated, for the lack of a better word, other female products on the market. And
that wasn't my brilliant idea either. It was also derived from the user needs. We had a woman who said, when I have my period and if I met a guy, I take it, like I put it in a little paper and then I roll it in my bag and I make sure that he doesn't see that I have like a period, which is, it's natural, but it's just showing that the packaging or everything around it doesn't look sexy.
No, so I just think it's really funny after all these years. But when are you guys hoping to, or when can we semi-expect to sort of see this on the market?
Well, it is a medical device, so it is regulated. And we also want it to be regulated because we want to make sure it's safe, it's efficient. So we have to live up to that standard. We're hoping that within 4 to 5 years, we can enter the market. It depends on how the human trials go. It depends on the technology. It depends on a lot of different factors. But at the moment, our results are so promising. So if everything just goes perfectly smooth, it's going to be some years, but not within decades.
No, but I think 4 to 5 years is still relatively fast, particularly when we talk about medical products. To go through those human trials and then to get the approval from the right authorities to sort of get it in stores. But what about price point? could this be something eventually that could be used in low-cost settings, or sort of what were your sort of ideas or plans? It's probably a bit early. I'd just like to hear your initial thoughts if you have any.
So like with everything we do in the company, we want to involve the users, and we haven't really reached that stage yet where we say how much do you want to pay.
How much would you pay? Yeah,
it's not what's driving us at the moment, but our vision and goal is that it's something that should be for everyone, and that if it should be for everyone, it should also be affordable. Mm-hmm. So we try to make it something that is compatible with other products, because our vision is that we want to impact millions of users. So if we do that, then we also have to price it in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was 92 million in the stats that women who use the contraceptives. And you also talked about it at some point that it could potentially be a subscription model or something like that, which I think would make a lot of sense.
I think also we want to adapt it to products that maybe like a contact lens, where, and maybe you will say looks a little like a contact lens, but it is also inspired by a contact lens. Some use it every day, some people use it just a few times a month, and it depends on the users and their desires, and also how often they have sexual intercourse. So we also want to price it after the user's life. So there should be flexibility in the pricing. And we also want for developing countries, our goal and vision is that it should also be available there, because then all of a sudden you can have this small product where we can really empower women to not get pregnant, and then it's not up to the guys with the condom, but the women also have the choice, and that is also, we try to make that possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked the sort of reference that it should just be something that you keep in your bag, right? Mm. I guess a lot of women, I should keep condoms in their bag, but then this would just be an option that you can use yourself.
But you feel that I also found out with all my user stories and talks that the condoms, some people say that they don't like to showcase that. It shouldn't be lying in front of you on the nightstand. Or
in the top drawer where everyone keeps their sorted items. Don't open the top drawer, I think.
So we wanted to really blend in with the everyday routine. Like it can blend in with your lipstick or your mascara. It can just look like something that is a part of your everyday routine, and we hope that it will be in some years. So that it shouldn't scream like
bright pink contraceptive.
Yeah. We try to make it discreet, and then it's up to users if they want to have it displayed or if they want to keep it discreetly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that it would just sort of be in the makeup bag that you could have with you.
And we also found out when we did all these user tests and stories that they want to be able to carry it with them when they're on holidays, but they also want to have a little pack at the nightstand or in the toilet. So if they want to have it several stations, it should also look appealing. So you're not afraid of displaying it.
No, it looks great already, at least. Yeah, if that's the design you're going with, I think it looks fantastic.
At the moment it is.
Okay, great. Still a little while to go. But so human trials are that would be the next milestone for you guys?
That's the next milestones. And in order to make that possible, we're also trying to find some more money. So that's the next big milestone, that we have to secure finance, and then when we do that, we can go into humans, which we're very excited about.
And is that, I'm not sure how much you can disclose, is that sort of hoping for next year? Maybe?
We're hoping for next year. We're targeting next year.
All right.
We think it's possible.
No, I mean, it's incredibly exciting. Are you hoping, again, I don't know if I'm digging too much here, are you hoping to do it here in Denmark, or will it sort of just depend on where the...
It depends where we have the possibility and the good collaborators, because for us, it has to be efficient, it has to be safe, so we work with the best collaborators in the world, and they're not all in Denmark. Mm-hmm. Some are, but we're internationally based company, even though the physical office is here.
Yeah, no, we can certainly relate being at Index. Just got to get used to all those different time zones, as I'm sure you're used to now.
Yes.
Having talked to so many people. So I think it's really interesting that you guys said you don't want it to be viewed as a medical device, that you want it to be more of a lifestyle product. What's sort of the reasoning behind that?
Well, the reasoning is that it shouldn't be. That's going back to all the taboos and the paradigm shift that we see is happening. Within like medical devices, it's something you buy in the pharmacy. It's something you do when you're sick or use when you're sick. And we don't see this as an illness. We see this as something like as a pleasure, and it's a desire, and we wanna encourage people to go out and do what they love.
Do what they love, yeah.
If they love to love.
Wasn't there that big campaign in Denmark, or was it Do It for Denmark?
Do it for love.
Was that to boost making children? Yes, okay. Yeah, that made it all the way to Australia. We were pretty impressed with that. Hence why we get this idea of Scandinavia being very liberal. So it's not a bad way to be. It's a great way to be. Great reputation to have. But thank you so much, Marie. I loved having this conversation. Obviously, we have some of these conversations where it's hard for me to contribute. But I mean, obviously, when it's a product that I feel like I could use eventually, it's really great to get your perspective and to, even ask all of my even trivial questions.
They were not trivial.
Okay,
but I mean, we're just happy that we can get it out, spread the word, because it's a product that can be for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, 5 years is not a long time, so we're really looking forward to following the progress.
I'll write you a mail.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Can Design Save Us by the Index Project. I'm your host, Lesley Price, and this episode was produced by Sidsel Nørgaard with music by Kristina Lilleskov. Join us for the next episode releasing next month.